Oh my God. We're going to talk about the children?
Please, won't somebody think of the children? Is our topic of today. And I'm looking forward to talking about the effects of screen time, what COVID did to the youngsters and the new generation. I'd like to discuss the dangers of diagnosis. And also, let's touch on the CAS review, which is also about the mental health of our children. So, yes, shall we begin?
Oh my good grief. Welcome to The Energy Show. Here we discuss the energy solutions to the problems of the modern age. It's all about emotional well-being. It's all about energy. And our happiness matters. Oh my goodness. What a where do we start? What a topic. Oh my
Yes,
God.
indeed. So I'm going to start by introducing myself. My name's Alex Kent, and I am the author of Big Ted's Guide to Tapping, which is a very simple guide for young children that just teaches them the energy points for doing modern energy positive tapping. So there's no reflecting on the negatives in here. This is about teaching children to want more of the good stuff, and
Yay.
by doing so, you take the bad stuff away. So yes, that's who I am. Who are you, Sylvia Hartman?
Oh, I'm Sylvia Hartman, the creator of Modern Energy. I have instigated this whole thing. When I was youngling at school, the teacher used to say to the parents of the other children, "Don't let them play with that Sylvia Hartman. She will put ideas into their heads." And I don't know, for some reason or other, I've been doing this my entire life, so I shall be continuing to do this right now, putting ideas into people's heads.
And there was born a guiding star, I think, Sylvia.
Um, I laughed my head off when a friend of mine told me that this is what their parents told them. I thought that was I wear it like a star, like a medal, a war medal,
Exactly.
because I used to go to school. Did you used to go to school?
I did used to go to school many, many years ago,
Mm.
and good things happen there and bad things happen there. I think my personal accomplishment was learning how to survive. I don't know if anybody else listening to that feels like they're a school survivor. I learned to make gangs and little
Oh,
gangs of 6-year-olds so that bullies couldn't attack you, and I learned
oh
to
man.
I learned to get the teacher's attention and learned to get good grades. And it's amazing, isn't it, what you do at school? I can't remember anything about actually the academic side, but never mind.
For some reason, I have to say that my school experience was like being in a prison camp and battling the powers that be and seeing how to, smuggle in the things that you needed and get around the various restrictions and planning your escape and and things of that nature. It was really quite something.
Dum bum, ba da 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 da.
When I
Dun,
was
da,
working
da, 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 da.
with negative tapping, used to teach negative tapping back in the day. There was when I was doing a live training to find a nice trauma that wouldn't be too much because a lot of people bring their sexual abuse trauma and all that business, and then they abreact in order to get attention from the entire training class. This was a thing. In order to avoid this happening, I used to ask people to find a school trauma, something that happened to them at school. And oh my God, the flood. You have just no idea. You could fill the Human Genome Project with people coming up with that time when they had a lovely thing and the teacher said it wasn't any good. And it was unbelievable. Now, I'm
Mm,
super glad that we have evolved and gone forward and are now doing Star Matrix instead and asking about
mm,
star memories of school, which is so much more interesting. There are actually children, there are adults out there who became, I don't know, Greek teachers or professors of ancient Greek because of a star event with one teacher for one moment in one class when they were like 5 years old. It's just amazing how these things work, and how when you shift your point of view, and instead of combing through your entire life and your school life for trauma, nothing but trauma, and you start combing for the star events instead, and you find those, how your mind changes about how bad your school experiences were. I had an amazing time at school. I had an
Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah,
But the
so
children of today, they don't seem to have the same kind of fun and joy that we used to have back in the day. Would you say that?
it's really interesting. Shall we talk about like like the difference between the level of freedom that my generation, your generation had, where there wasn't all this threat of being, snatched off the streets, and and there was none of that kind of, I don't know. It would seem it wasn't safer by any
No,
measurable metric.
no, it wasn't at all. Not at all. It's
It
just as
take
dangerous
child,
then as it is now.
take child, throw out at dawn, allowed to come back for tea. Child tries to creep back in. You get the broomstick and you sweep them out the door again.
I don't think that
Mummy,
was.
it's raining.
Yeah,
Out you
I, I,
go.
I have
Mummy,
this.
it's snowing.
I have it
Get lost.
on a reasonable authority that this was not your experience, your personal experience. I think you're summing up here somebody else's experiences. Something that troubles me a
Oh,
lot
it's funny.
about the school system that is happening at the moment, that I did not have to deal with, is this idea that if you have to send your children to school all the time, and if you don't, social services descend upon you. Back in the day when I had children, it was like, yeah, I mean, I send them to school if I want to, but if I need them for something, I'll keep them at home to help with the harvest. It was like
Mm.
very different attitude. It seems much, much more, I don't know, authoritarian now
I
from the
got
school side.
yes, I got a letter the other day to explain that children should be sent to school under most situations. For example, if they're coughing, send them to school. If they've got a headache, send them to school. If they're sobbing at the school gate saying, I don't want to go, send them to school.
That's a
If
really
they're,
bad idea. That's a really, really bad idea. It's
mm,
like, man, that just reminds me of, I like watching horse trainers for amusement when I'm not doing what I'm doing. And there was this one horse, and she always used to kick people and bite people and chuck their riders off. And the horse trainer looked at her as they were putting the saddle on. And they said, this is not going to go well. I can tell you this is not going to go well. And she said, well, how do you know? She said, well, the horse's ears are really flat. She's showing you her teeth. She's trembling. And she's going, grrr. This is not a happy horse. You're taking it now forward into the riding school, and you get on that horse, you're going to be in trouble. And you have a kid that's already sobbing at the school gates, coughing and sobbing. How is that going to go over the whole length of that day that they have to stay in school? What are they going to learn? How stressed are they going to be? They're trying to tell you something. They're not happy.
I think what the school is saying is that in what they're implying is that, of course, a child's going to either manifest physical illness due to the stress of being at school or the stress of going to school. Of
Mhm.
course, they're going to manifest like headaches, and of course they're going to feel their emotional stress as being tight chested and pains in the head, in the body. Of course, they're going to do that. However, they've got to really manifest a good illness before you're allowed to keep them off school.
Oh
Um,
God.
yes, I mean, my daughter was particularly sad about this technique. Is she thought the contract was if she's still really suffering at school, the teacher would listen, and then the parent would get a phone call, and then they get to go home. But my daughter's experience is that the teachers are also being programmed to ignore these kind of low-level sufferings and just make the child endure it, which I think is a really bad way for our children to grow up.
Yes.
I think that ongoing stress, I think that ongoing not dealing with the emotional side, what's causing them to manifest into physical illness. Because look, let's be clear here. As we know, 50% of people that go to see their doctor for an appointment, the diagnosis is there's nothing wrong with them, nothing physically
Nothing
wrong
they
with
can
them.
physically find, right?
Yes, there's
It's a
nothing wrong with
spiritual
the cells,
problem,
the
an
bones.
energy
It's a
body
spiritual
problem.
problem. It's an
Yeah.
energy body problem. Yeah, and this is
The same with the
definitely teaching
children.
children the wrong thing.
It's the same with the children. And like the example with that horse trainer who said, look, there's nothing good is going to come from this when you take this horse into the riding school. It's going to kick you, it's going to bite you, and it's going to throw you off, and it will learn nothing other than that the whole thing is horrible and should be avoided. And the next time you try and put the saddle on, it's going to escalate. It's going to escalate into the behavior comes further forward in time, and it escalates and becomes more explosive, more dangerous for everyone concerned. And what you're doing is you're literally creating a dangerous horse that's going to be put to sleep. What we have to do is to go right forward. And this is so nice in this children example, is that children should go to school stable and happy and positive. And then they have a chance of learning something. Because you can't learn when you're freaked out with a headache and you're hating it. And that's interesting. Oh, can I just please talk about that? You know, you can't learn a thing from a teacher you hate. Did you know that? That in order to actually learn from a teacher, you need to have a connection with the teacher through which the energy and information flows. And if you hate the teacher and that is not there, you cannot learn from that teacher. No matter how much money you've paid, no matter how hard you try, you just can't learn from them. It's a fascinating
Well, you can't
thing.
learn directly from them. You can
No.
certainly develop behaviors to avoid people like that. You can certainly develop behaviors that
Well, as a
say,
child,
you
you
know what?
can't avoid them. You know, as a child, you can't avoid them. Or
I'd
even
say
as a
every
student, you
millionaire's
can't.
life story, every 50% of millionaire's life story is, well, there was a teacher that said I could never achieve nothing. There was a
Yeah,
teacher that said I was just good for
useless.
sweeping the gutters. There was a
Yeah.
teacher that said that I will probably take my own life by the time I'm 30. Who God knows? That's a very bad teacher. But I went to show them I did, and this is it. I took my millions of pounds and I rubbed it in their nose out of
Yeah, but that doesn't
contempt.
actually counter say what I just said. I said that you can't learn from them. You can do
Exactly.
the opposite of what they say, and you'll
Your
try to
behavior
do
might
that.
change because of
Your
a bad
behavior might
teacher.
change, but you can't actually learn from them. And so, I mean, it is super important that the children, as they're going into school, are de-stressed, that they're reasonably in a reasonable place on the modern energy chart. I'm going to stick one up because life without the modern energy chart makes no sense at all. So there's our energy chart. I mean, at the very least, the child should be, well, I would like a child to go to school at +3. The question mark over the head when the intelligence wakes up, when you're starting to actually ask questions, where you know, hey, what's going, this is an active taking part in what you're teaching, being taught, or what you're supposed to learn, rather than just sitting there like the robot at 0 there. Oh, I'm just sitting through the class. And then as you're going down the scale, you've got the green guy with, oh, I don't understand this. What's going on? I don't like it. I don't know where. And the confidence erodes into all the way down to, God, I will never learn this. This is weird. And then you get the up reaction at -7. I hate this whole thing. Brr. You know, and then the really depressed people, and they're sitting right at the back of the class in their goth clothing. And they've given up completely. They're not interacting at all. If they're physically present, you'd be lucky, you know. It's So to make the goal, to have the children at school be in a better energy state, and in many cases this needs to start before the child goes to school, needs to start with the parents, and it would be nice if parents knew this, wouldn't it?
I think so. I think as well, before they go to school, it needs to start the evening before as well. I think screen time is a huge problem for the new generation. I think on both sides of the parental system, you have the parents that are not having those interactions with their children due to
It's a huge
obsession
problem,
with their screen
huge
time,
problem. That's a huge
and
problem.
it's a huge problem. And then you have the children themselves. I saw that myopia, as in short-sightedness, it has massively ramped up since the COVID years. And people, the research recommends that a child should be outside, spend at least 2 hours a day outside, so that their focal length gets
Yeah, looking at
actually
birds, looking at little
birds,
flowers
trees.
far
Yeah,
away in the distance. That makes every
exactly.
sense in the world.
Exactly. So there's been a massive increase in short-sightedness since the COVID years. So yeah, and also screen time before bed. I think the children today, I appreciate this is more of the physical side rather than the energy side, but
Well, it is
just
one
that
body,
ability
at the
to.
end of the day. It is one
Mm,
person, one body at the end of the day. It's just that we talk a lot about the energy side because nobody else does. But we
yeah,
are fully aware that the physical, it's one person, one body
yeah. I
that we need to
remember
be dealing with.
my generation involved the family, even if the family are like the Simpsons, sitting together on the sofa watching
Yes.
TV. And the Simpsons were criticized for that behavior as being, no one's having a conversation. They're not playing board games. They're not interacting with each other. They're mindless zombies watching. But
Yeah.
now we've got situations that's even worse.
Yes.
That's the
Yes, we
mindless
do.
zombies are sitting in their own rooms in
And
front of
they're
their
not
own screens.
connecting. They're not connecting with
So
each
that
other.
there's not there's not
Oh,
even that connection between each other sharing a moment, like watching a movie together. Each one's doing their individual things, learning to lock themselves away.
I'll
And
say
what this
something really interesting about that. When the mobile phones first came in, I was not a fan. I'm still not a fan, and I don't use them. Makes me an old person. I realize that, and a radical, and a person who gives bad ideas to other people, as usual,
and a Luddite, should we add
and
Luddite to
a
the pile?
Luddite, and an old boomer, and everything else we want to throw at me here. But anyway, so when the mobile phones came in, I was not a fan. And in fact, as I was having interactions with my children, my sons, grown-up sons, they would come in and we'd have a chat, and then their phone would go off, and I just went, "No, I'm not having that. I'm here with you. I take precedence, switch the damn thing off." And I just put my foot down right at the beginning, and that was really useful because
Mm,
it's been amazing. I've had no trouble with it with either of them ever since. They've just switch
mm,
off their phones when they're with me, and that's it. And I get the attention, and they get the attention from me in return, and it's not being disrupted. Because this is the
mm,
worst thing. See, when you are together with somebody, you're not fully in rapport yet. It takes a little while, and the rapport becomes stronger, becomes deeper, becomes the energy exchange ramps up, becomes more nourishing, more powerful.
mm.
And when you are then going, beep, 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 oh, sorry, I got to take this. And then you're coming back. This is completely resets it back to the beginning, as though you only just opened the door and said, oh, hello. And then you have to start again, trying to get into some kind of rapport again. And then, meep, 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 up, and it's gone again. So there
Mm,
never develops this depth of relationship. And this is a real energy exchange that we need to feed our starving energy systems with people energy. We never get there. It's like the waiter comes up with the glass of with a jug for your empty glass of water, and he's just about to pour it in, and he goes up and goes away again. And you keep sitting there being thirstier and thirstier and thirstier. but you never get that glass of water that you actually need to not die, basically. So this whole mobile phone thing is an absolute catastrophe for the children, Catastrophe. Children need massive amounts of energy, attention. And
I'm
that's a
going to say
real
what the
thing.
saddest thing, Sylvia, that I've ever seen. So my belief, and this has been shaken a lot over the years, is that just getting a child from being born to the age of 18 is an incredible achievement. And no matter what a parent does to manage to do that, it can be a ready meal. It can be too much screen time. The base level of the commitment required for a person to get a child to adulthood is incredible. Every single parent should be applauded for that. Now, here is the saddest thing that I have seen during this, and it really challenged this. And that was I went to a playground on a nice day, nice summer's day, and there were 4 swings all in a row with 4 parents pushing their child on the swings, all with their phone to their face, pushing with one hand.
Oh, man.
And the 4 children were just...
This is so terrible. It's
Yes.
terrible.
It was awful. It was
Terrible.
absolutely shocking. And I thought, wow, if I took a photo of that and it's burnt into my brain, then that would be the summary of the downside of modern parenting.
This is a
Yet
catastrophe.
can I give I saw something yesterday, and this was, again, what we're looking for is for good star events. And that was 2 mummies sat on the ground. It's quite muddy ground, but they chose to sat there with their child in front of them, pushing the swing, child, and that kind of restored my faith in parenting. So yeah, I mean, I've seen it was the best of times and the worst of times. Yeah, that was awful. Anyway,
this is something. Look, parents don't know this. They have never been told this, that their children need food and water and clean nappies and attention, energy. Somebody else directly looking at them, tuning their ears, their eyes, their noses towards them, and absolutely focusing their attention on them. That's where the energy exchange takes place. That's where you're sending out this tentacle, and the child connects up with that. It's like mid-air refueling. Like that. There's a connection being made, and now energy is being exchanged. And the child needs this in order to grow up reasonably healthy. And if they don't get this, if they're not getting the attention, then you can drown them in pearls and ponies and extravagant birthday parties. They will grow up hating you. They'll grow up being really weird and freaked out and not knowing why, because they haven't got it. They haven't got a trauma to point to. They can't say, like most of them, Uncle Bob abused me and that's why I'm crazy. They don't know why they're crazy. And they got all the material goods and all the private schools and all the helicopter parent, everything. Why am I so deeply unhappy? Why is my self-esteem so bad? Why am I so stressed all the time? Why do I have an ADHD diagnosis? Why? Because you didn't get enough attention. Simple attention when you were a squirt. And parents don't know this. They honestly have no idea. They were told there's no such thing as a soul or a spirit or an energy system. So they don't know it. And I have heard so many times people saying, when my kid was small, she was crying all the time, always clinging to me. And there was nothing I could do to quieten her down or quieten him down. Tried the food, just changing the burping, and nothing would work. They honestly don't know that there is this thing with the focused attention. That is why the kid's crying. This is why the child is crying. Give me attention. And attention is energy. And what is energy? Energy is
love.
Yes. The
Yeah.
children are dying for the lack of love.
Yeah, it's a huge issue, and I hope one that we have hope. I'd like to think we've bottomed out on this now, as people are starting to realize the dangers of screen time.
I don't
At
think
my
so.
daughter's school, who is teenager, the school has now given them a little pouch. You put your phone in it at the beginning of the day. It seals it up with some kind of like magnetic lock, and then they haven't got their phone anymore. Now, there's two sides of this. Well, the first is that my daughter reported that there was a lot more conversations, there was a lot more spending time with each other, there was a lot more interacting. And she did say the downside is the bullies are a lot more bored these days. And looking for more victims, where they used to be quite happy with their putting themselves, which is quite a
Look,
fascinating
to be
side
fair,
effect.
I mean, to be fair, I have always really thought to myself, whose bright idea was it to take 40, 50 children and put them like in a pen together and let them loose on each other? Whose brilliant idea was that?
Wow, what small school have you went to, Sylvia? Schools these days are, well, American schools are thousands strong,
Well, no, I was
and
thinking
and they'll have a
per
bell.
class.
No,
No,
but
per
they'll have
class,
yeah, but
per
they'll have a
class.
bell that goes bing, 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 and then they release those 30 children from each class
Oh, the
into the corridors.
cattle pens
The
all
cattle
open.
pen, we the cattle ran out, the children ran out.
Yeah, I mean,
Oh,
who
yeah.
thought that this was actually a bright idea or a good
Mm,
idea how to raise the next generation?
exactly.
I'm astonished by this, and I have always been. And so we are working basically here already with a system that is not at all designed to feed the needs of the children.
Mm,
The children need
yeah.
energy input and energy information input and love, if you will, from older children, younger children, grown adults, men, women, grandmas,
Yes.
grandpas, uncles, aunts, and they need that whole bandwidth, like vitamins, energy vitamins for their growing systems. And
Mm,
just putting them together with other kids who are also not evolved and who are still practicing with pulling the legs of a spider. This is just crazy. Of course, they're going to be hurting each other, and nobody's there to say, stop it. What do you think you're doing? Especially at
yeah.
break times.
So
And this is just madness. The whole thing is madness. We need to
yeah,
change
it needs to
everything.
be. Well, so I said that my daughter, uh, her only when she's feeling really stressed in the morning, and the school says send her into school anyway. There is a way out for children where that means that they're actually given a bit more attention. That means that they're given free things like a new laptop, and there is
Mental
a way
health
that they can
diagnosis.
and there is a way that they can actually feel like they're being heard and allowed to leave the class if they're feeling stressed. Now, yes, you've got it. And so I'd like to talk about the dangers of diagnosis. So children from a very young age are taught how to pass tests, right? So in school, from a very young age, you'll give a child a test. What is 1 plus 1? Child writes 2, and they get a big tick, and
Well
they
done.
complete their test, and they know, right, okay, so what my job is to do is to work out how to complete a test, is to complete each of the answers, submit them, and then I'll be told if I'm right or not. And my job as a person is to try and pass
Pass
this
the
test.
test.
Now, when you're dealing, when you, I think the big issue, certainly in the UK, is by saying that mental health and physical health are essentially the same. So, what we've got is we're essentially saying that mental health should be treated exactly the same as physical health. And I
Okay.
really see a huge problem in saying that you can, if you've got a diagnosis for mental health issue, that is the same as having, I don't know, having double amputation of your
Diabetes
legs, and you need to be in a wheelchair,
or
or for
diabetes.
example, or you're blind, or you
Yeah.
have visual problems, or proper learning disabilities. By saying that you can get that level of support by not dealing with your stress, say for example, ADHD or anxiety issues or panic attacks, you don't want children to be told that if they're going to be ignored if their symptoms are minor, but if they really ramp up the symptoms, you know, really take it, not just cry or sob a little bit, but really have an absolute -7 on the scale tantrum, then they'll get what is called a diagnosis in something. And then the teachers will actually start listening to them and actually start acknowledging their emotional, mental pain and suffering. This is I think
I'd,
this is a huge issue, Sylvia.
I'd
I
go
think this is a
further and
huge
say
issue.
that that when they have this is a power play where the teachers are actually afraid of them, of what they might do to others or to themselves, and then the teacher gets the blame. So we're getting actually further down the line of a very bizarre reward or empowerment through insanity.
I remember there's so one of my favorite TV series, Sylvia Hartman, is called Father Ted. And in it, there's a scene where two priests are basically taking the fun out of each other to insult each other just a little bit, like, "Oh, Father Ted, oh, do you still have a problem with your furry bottom or your hairy bottom?" And he's like, "Oh, thanks for bringing that up. How about you? How about you with your furry feet?" And then this priest looks at him and says, "Ah, but that is a medical condition." And all of a sudden, the argument is lost. You
That's a
know, one
medical
is
condition.
funny, one is deadly serious and to be taken 100% serious. And so, yeah, I think the problem is by thinking of mental health as being is the same, basically shoehorning mental health services into physical health service conditions. I think that's a huge problem. I think there needs to be a much more recognition of the dangers of labels.
Labels
I
are
think
very, very, very dangerous indeed. Very, very dangerous indeed. They are huge limiters on person's self-esteem, self-concept. They affect how a person behaves in everyday situations. It's a really dangerous thing to label a child, a young child, who we do not know what they're going to be when they grow up. We don't know that yet because it hasn't grown up yet. To label them as this, that, or the other is incredibly dangerous and damaging and destructive. And I just, oh God, this is enough to pull my hair out. On top of that, I mean, the biggest problem that I see here is that people not knowing about stress, and that includes the psychologists, the medical doctors, everybody in the world doesn't understand stress, emotional stress. They don't know what that is. And when a person gets very stressed, they will manifest and show you all signs of mental illness just because
yeah.
they're stressed. I got very stressed the other day because something went wrong at work, and I was like, you know, and really freaking out and getting very angry, and that doesn't mean that I have some kind of mental health problem. It just means I was stressed. I got
It
really,
means you're a
really
normal human being responding to the environment as any human being
normal
would
human
under.
being would. And right now,
Mm.
take our children here, the children of today, the youngsters in the schools, the real younglings, you take them. And they've just been through a pandemic where they told everybody was going to die. right? Everybody was going to
Right.
die. They've been told that the whole world is going up in flames through global warming, and there will be no future for them. They've been told this, and little kids can just about sort of understand that. They had to wear masks and be terrified and wash their hands. They had not enough attention from their parents because their parents were fascinated by these new toys that they got. And again, that's also, I'm not holding them responsible for this. The parents were fascinated by the new toys and played with them, and their kids didn't get enough attention. You put that together with everything else, and then they themselves are watching TikTok all day long. God help us all, total brain rot. Then, and you put that together, and then you say, why are they showing the signs of mental illness?
Yeah. Well, I
If
would
they didn't,
suggest.
they wouldn't be human. They'd be completely something else. I'm surprised they're functioning as well as they actually are. And they should be
Yeah.
given a lot more credit for their inherent strengths and humanity and willingness to battle on from day to day, considering all the madness that has enfolded them.
I think that any child that wanted to get a mental health diagnosis could do, just by answering the questions they're presented with in such a way to get to pass the test. I think any child is capable of that.
But
And
also the
I'm thinking,
questions are
no,
loaded.
can I just say, Sylvia? Can I just say,
Yeah.
Sylvia, what I think the solution is, and I appreciate this is not easy to do in a time of austerity, is treat every child like when they are presenting signs of stress, to treat them like that is real, to treat them like, right, okay, let's act on that like as if you had a mental health diagnosis. Take away this whole, I'm not giving you any attention, to I'm giving you lots of attention because you have a diagnosis. Take that big
Yeah,
cliff,
don't
that big
reward.
barrier away,
Yeah,
and
don't
instead
reward the
treat
mental
every
illness.
child like
Every
they are a
child.
normal human being on the modern energy chart,
Yes.
and everybody goes up and down, and everybody has good days, everybody has bad days.
Yes.
And I think that would be hugely beneficial
I
for
think, yeah,
our young children.
I completely agree with that. And then you got the opposite. You did mention the Cass report. You got
Mm,
people that, younglings that are going, oh, I want to be a boy, and peace standing up. And then these people say, okay, they'll fix it. Yeah, sure. We'll mechanically turn you into a boy, and then your problems will
mm,
go away. And without diagnosing any mental illness at all in this sort of thing. It's
mm.
kind of really schizophrenic if you think about it.
So, for people that aren't aware of what the Cass review is, essentially during from 2019 to 2023 and 2024, there was this whole gender fluidity thing that politicians were absolutely terrified to deal with. The media were absolutely terrified to deal with. People on social media was absolutely terrified to have an opinion about trans issues, especially for children. And then there was this hugely influential person, this hugely influentially doctor who did a review in the United Kingdom, and this is called the Cass Review. And what it found was basically doctors were being terrorized into giving diagnosis because they were so afraid of the backlash against them. So they were terrified of, they were taking unscientific approaches to deciding whether certain treatments were ethical, were valid. So where you have something, like a drug that, I don't know, that helps people with cancer, there's huge trials before that is then passed on to the population and said, here's what we know, what the risks are, we know what benefits are. This is why we think it's appropriate as a treatment for you. Until you get to that stage, it's so long. But with certain treatments, before that all those safeguards, all those medical, the whole medical ethos is we will do you no harm. and it's
It's just
all
gone
that was
straight
just
out the
wiped
window.
away because
Yeah.
the doctors were terrified. And so in this CAS review, one of the key points that they made was that what we need about our young children is a more holistic view, because often a young child might have already had their ADHD diagnosis and still found themselves being traumatized, anxiety issues, stressed, even with medication. And then they are looking for, okay, so if that didn't solve my problem, what else did solve my problem? And what the CAS review highlighted was actually many of the people that have, I believe it's called, is it gender dysphoria, body dysphoria, something like that, isn't it?
Specifically gender dysphoria.
Gender dysphoria. Actually, if you look at their situation holistically, often that they come from very stressful homes growing up, very difficult situations. That actually, if you were to help them energetically, mentally, spiritually, then often a lot of what their symptoms of actually needing to change something. I need to change something. This hasn't worked. Let's find something that works. What can make me happy? And their outlook completely changes. And that should be, of course, addressed first
Yes.
before anything such as puberty blockers, which thankfully the CAS review said, it just said, why are we
Stop.
using these? Why
Yeah,
are we
just
using
stop.
these with such limited evidence?
Yeah, and they're
Oh,
very,
I feel
very,
like we've
very,
we've got
very
very
dangerous.
heavy, haven't we? But you know what? The
It is,
children are so resilient. Can we bring this energy show to a close by just talking about what incredible, parts of the human society our children are, and their creativity is just often as we grow older, we sadly as our own pressures. I think every adult can look at children and think, you know what, I want to be in many ways more like you. And lets me remember the joy of, I don't know, seeing a sunrise, or seeing an ant scurrying along the ground holding up a leaf that
Oh,
millions, 10 times the size of its weight,
well, you
or
get to
seeing a
see.
bee buzzing from flower to flower,
I
and seeing
remember,
like petals of beautiful colours and smells, and blowing a dandelion.
yes, I
Oh,
remember a squirt of mine standing in the garden and for the first time experienced snow falling on him. It was so amazing. And I thought at the time, when you have children, you get to, reconnect with the wonders of the world.
hmm.
That is, if you're actually looking at your squirt in the garden and not like that. Something that I thought the other day was like Disney has this problem that people are getting very stressed in the parks and unhappy. And no,
Oh God.
apparently, and at the same time, somebody else said this, but they didn't connect it. Somebody said, well, one of the problems is that nowadays you have to stay on your park application the whole time in order to know where you need to go next to get your dinner reservation or to go which ride you get to go on. So you're with your nose in your mobile phone the whole
Oh
time
God.
while you're walking in your Disney park.
Yeah.
And so I thought to myself, well, I obviously put the two together as we do. And I thought, isn't Disney supposed to go for children and grandchildren and parents and to have these star memories together? To make
Mm.
these star memories that also would create Disney's next generation of customers. If they had star memories as a squirt with their grandfather, then when they become a grandfather, they'll take the squirts to Disney, right? It's
Mm.
logical. But if they're like that all the time, then they're not going to be making these memories with their children, their grandchildren, with their grandparents. Because once again, the mobile phones have disrupted what was the whole idea of going to Disney as a family, that you're going as a family together and sharing experiences. It's
Mm.
extraordinary, isn't it? So
It is.
we,
It's
we
certainly interesting. What I would add to that is Disney. When Disney was founded, it was this place of dreams. You know, you had
Oh,
the original founder who wanted to make a place where people could go that was outside their day-to-day hard life existence. It
yeah.
was a place of magic. You'd see a fairy, you'd see a princess, it would be this place of wonder. Now,
When you put a
turning
mobile
that into a
phone into that,
turning
it kills it, doesn't it?
turning that into a formula of saying, right, okay, magic equals x plus b squared divided by the hypotenuse of f, and f is the fun quotient, but obviously not too much, because then that makes the q line too big. You know, if you make a magic formula, it just takes it away. Just doing something that magic once over and over again, because without actually going back to that original concept, is lost.
Yeah,
So
but I just realized
yeah,
that any activity that used to be magical and amazing, when you put a mobile phone into it, it's like you're literally pricking the bubble. And what was a beautiful balloon is dead. It's just a
Sylvia
limp
Hartman, I
rubber
was
thing.
bringing this energy show to a close by suggesting that seeing the world through children eyes is such a beautiful thing.
Okay, I didn't
And
realize that that's what you were up to. All right,
yes,
we don't have
and
to.
what I was
No,
saying was
we don't
how
have to run
actually
away just yet.
if we can just look at
Uh,
the world from that perspective of a child looking, experiencing the magic of this world, and being happy with the big box that their expensive toy came in, and painting, doing their little hand against a piece of paper, and making that huge. So that first human mark that was
yes,
done 10,000 years ago or 100,000 years ago in a
100
cave.
million years ago.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just
Now
the spirit of. See, I
we
believe
all in the circle
completely.
of life, Sylvia Hartman.
No, no, don't say that. That we're going to have to talk about that next time.
No, we won't.
It's not a circle of life; it's a spiral.
A spiral. We're in the great spiral of
We're in
life.
a great spiral of life because it's not a bloody circle. But yes, the human spirit. I believe in the human spirit. Absolutely. I think that people are so much more interesting than they've given themselves credit for. I think that, yeah, okay, so they've run headfirst into a brick wall with the modern technology. That's really turned out to be quite weird. But then a lot of things, people used to be very excited about x-raying their own heads hundreds of times. And they did. When the
He
x-rays, they used to
yeah.
drink the stuff and see that they were glowing in the dark in the laboratories
Mm.
back in the day when they first came up with radioactive substances. Human beings are children. We are playing with all sorts of things. And somehow there isn't an adult in the room who says, now put those mobile phones down now, people. This is not healthy for you. But so we say that we want to try and offer solutions for the problems of the modern age. So I'd like to come end this with, right, tell people about stress, how stress changes everything, how a person thinks, how they feel, what it does. Discuss with people and children what makes them happy, because what makes us happy takes us out of stress. I just heard the other day a lady saying that she has a sister who always phones her and she's always dumping on her. And the way to stop that from happening is to ask her about the things she loves, for example, Star Wars. And yes, and as soon as she does that, it's like a switch being kicked and it becomes a better, positive, more happy conversation.
Mm.
I think we all can do some little things to help people get out of stress and feel happier. And the happier they are, the stronger they are, the more this essential flame of humanity starts to shine within. And we
Mm.
see that in the children. We see that in the old people, in every human being. And shall we just send all the children of the world a little bit of love while we're here, Alex?
Of course, yes. All the
All the
children
children.
of the world.
The children
Yes.
are just that once were, the ones still to come, and especially the ones who are right here, right now, and don't
Mm.
know if they are loved yet. And yes, they are.
Yes, and the children of our past aspects too.
Yeah, all the children.
Uh,
Our love to
well,
all the children in the universe.
and I'd also like to say, Big Ted's Guide to Tapping, wonderful book,
For little children,
available from
perfect.
all good bookshops. Well,
And
Sylvia,
from
that was a
Dragon
fascinating
dragonrising.com.
discussion on, please, won't someone think of the
Think of the
children?
children.
My name's Alex Kent, you're Sylvia Harman, and I am very keen to hear in the comments of what your thoughts are on children, on education, on maybe teenagers, people growing up, and your experience as well. I'm looking forward to hearing from all the parents and the grandparents and the carers. So yes, please
And
do write your
we
comments
also
below.
have on our website goe.ac. If you type in the search box children, you'll find a ton of articles, case stories, where teachers have gone and tried things with children in the class and all sorts of things. So that's a great source of information, further information on the topic. We would love to help more teachers bring modern stress management for children into the classroom and just have more people understand how this really works. Okay.
Yes. Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Bye for now.